Here in Washington, results of several Seattle City Council races will change the future of the city's politics. And voters right now are seeing fresh faces on this year's ballot in several districts. King 5's Farah Jadran gives us the details on some of the council candidates.
This is the first Seattle City Council election since redistricting. Now, since Seattle grew about 20% or so from 2010 to 2020, according to census data, a new redistricting commission came together, did a lot of work within communities to finalize those new districts. So these new districts now have about an equal amount of residents among all of them. Take a look at your screen right now. This is a look at all of the Seattle City Council candidates running for office. There are some candidates trying to keep their seats, but as we've been mentioning throughout our coverage, there are 4 districts without incumbents running. Those are districts 1, 3, 4, and 5. A look at those districts are on your screen right now. We've covered several of these races as candidates campaigned, plus members of our King 5 team moderated several debates. Key issues for all of those races included public safety and homelessness. If you're interested in seeing those debates or looking at some of the candidate information a little bit more closely before you fill out your ballots and drop them off at, say, a place here in Fremont, go ahead and head to king5.com. We have all those resources there for you. In Seattle, Farah Jadran, King 5 News.
So there is another race that could also change the makeup of the city council. Current city council member Teresa Mosqueda is running for King County Council District 8. She is facing Burien Mayor Sofia Aragon. If Mosqueda wins, the Seattle City Council will need to appoint a replacement until the next election in 2024. Now taking a closer look at what's on the ballot for neighbors across the Sound. In Snohomish, Kitsap, and Thurston counties, we are diving deeper into mayoral races, public safety proposals, and school bonds. Today, the city of Edmonds will vote for a new mayor, and in the primary, current mayor Mike Nelson came out on top by just 47 votes over challenger Mike Rosen, and today's election will most likely be just as close.
I think if I were to ask everybody in Edmonds to raise their hand and say, who among you thinks like we've really nailed it? This is how government ought to be working. I don't think a single hand's going to go up.
I have a record of protecting and keeping the community safe and healthy, and you can see what I've done.
Nelson plans to prioritize public safety by making the city more pedestrian friendly by adding sidewalks to connect parks and schools. Challenger Rosen vows to bring more transparency to City Hall and pledges to work across party lines. The South Kitsap School District is looking to upgrade its schools, but the district needs voters to get it done. The district says its buildings have not been upgraded in decades.
The infrastructure and the electricity and those kind of things just don't meet the standard. We run out of power, basically, is what happens.
Today, voters will decide on a bond measure that would use taxpayer dollars to replace 5 schools and renovate 1 wing of South Kitsap High. The $271 million bond would be paid off over 21 years by taxpayers. 60% of voters need to say yes for it to pass. Advocates of the bond say this could solve accessibility and safety for students. Meanwhile, in Fife, voters will also be asked to front the bill for a $200 million high school. District leaders said the current school is sorely outdated. So Proposition 1 is asking voters to approve a capital bond to rebuild Fife High School. If passed, construction on the project would begin immediately. In Thurston County, voters will decide if they will soon pay a higher sales tax. If this passes, it would be the highest sales tax in the state. Voters are being asked to raise the county's sales tax 0.2%. That amounts to 2 cents for every $10 spent. 75% of the funds raised would go to the sheriff's office, which declared a staffing emergency last month. Most of the remaining funds would go to the prosecutor's office, which is still struggling to catch up from courthouse shutdowns in 2020. But some residents say there has to be another way to keep the community safe.
I've been saying for years we need more deputies on the road, but we don't need to be subject to either you pay us this extra money or you live in danger.
If the measure passes, the tax increase goes into effect in April and would generate an estimated $8 million next year. Under the proposal, the money raised would only go toward new hires and facilities. Among those casting their ballots this year is an untold number of formerly incarcerated people who had their right to vote restored under a recent law. That law took effect in January 2022, automatically restoring the voting rights of people released from prison. Advocacy group Free the Vote Washington says more than 20,000 Washington voters had the right to vote restored.
You know, it's been slow going. This is something that for a very long time, people have not believed that they had the right to vote.
Even though we're telling them that their right to vote has been restored, they have a hard time believing it.
Right now, there are no estimates on how many formerly incarcerated people have been registered to vote since that law passed. Free the Vote Washington is now looking at more legislation to restore voting rights to people currently in prison. That could be introduced next year. As you fill out your ballots today, check out our election guide. Text the word election to 206-448-4545 and we'll send you a link. Of course, stay with King 5 and king5.com tonight for all of the results starting at 8 o'clock.